Back to the first five, from the first five to the second, from the second to the center, from the center to the winger, and the fullback right behind. That's the combination of the Turangawaaewai side. We are every other team. End of the season, this is the reason we are the Turangawaaewai side. Pass it here, pass it here, pass it there, go pass it everywhere. We are the team to play. Your world, don't pass that ball too long. Just pass it right along. Play the game, Turangawaaewai, play the game.
E he nei te roa, e ki te anga hau i te tahi wahine, tēnā wā tāhura wātu. Ko kore aro i hau, me he mea he wawata, he moe aha, he harawara nei.
Tua tahi tunu e mihi ki a koutou, koe ke nei koutou ki tēnei taumata. Ngā mihi ki a koutou katoa. Pāna Hiremia, John Rani Tere Mauri Hiremia is actually my name. When was the first time or you played against Turangawaaewai or your first encounter with Turangawaaewai? Well, I can say it was definitely 1975. Well, look, I can't remember too much. I can remember the number of sprigs that was going over the top of the eru, but whatihua. And we all relied on Taniwhara at that time on Warren Rangi to act as the brick wall to stop whatihua when he came through on the burst.
In my time growing up, playing Turangawaaewai, we got some hua hidings from our whānau Turangawaaewai, but you know, I was fortunate enough to be involved in some rare victories as well. And that game in 1999, I was a skinny fullback at that time. We were fortunate enough to win that game that day. And you know, some of the players I remember, and a dear friend of mine is Shannon Te He was on the wing that day, and tika ana kia mihi ki aia. You know, Edu asked me to speak about some of the players that I admired playing against, but also you know, lucky enough to rub shoulders with them and play with them in the same teams, such as Waikato Māori and Waikato at the time, and Shannon Te sticks out in my mind. The likes of Hikiwari Muru as well, Tangata Herangi, very strong player, Pichi, Whitiora, Paki Rawari, as I mentioned earlier, Edu Whare as well. Those players, very tough players, but very knowledgeable on how to play rugby league as well. And then you had the likes of my idols back here as well, at Taniwhara, James Korpu, Brad Roberts, Wally Rangi, Joey Heremia, James Petty, Josh David, and I believe I was in the era of players who grew up very fortunate to be under the tutelage of players of that calibre.
Yeah, Bunny Dixon's my name. Originally from Ngarawahia, played with Turangawaaewai. Moved down here in 84, 83. Played with Taney. 1984 was my first season. Down and played with some of the greats of the rugby league era, Waikato Māoris. These fellas were some of the hardest men around. So yeah, and I go back to my first encounter against Turangawaaewai. Ricky named the side, and I was playing on the wing those days, but at the end of the day, he said you were getting too big. My mother-in-law was feeding me up. And yeah, I had to move into the forwards with Doug Rahe. I still remember the day I ran onto the field. TURANGAWAEWAE gave me the warmest welcome. Bāterangi, robust New Zealand Māori player, Waikato, played with Sonny in them, Sonny Martinga and Curls and Harry in them, you know. Strong runner, but you know, he was one of them. And well, Morgan Tinney was there, tractor they call him those days. And they had a few loser fellas, Benny Kenny, which is Ben Edmonds, and Paru Potapu, and all those guys, all in their own right were good players. And yeah, so those were fond memories going back those days in the 80s.
Ko Rauri Tāmi ana tōku ingoa. In 1966, I started with the club. And I can remember the day back then there's, I think what I remember, one of the stronger clubs at that time was RUGBY. And I can remember the likes of Brian Barrackers and Joe Moronga. It was just to name a few that were playing for RUGBY at that particular time. And of course they were a very strong team too. And but later in the early 70s, I think I can recall Eru was when the rebirth, I guess, of TURANGAWAEWAE. And again, another, for us anyway, you know, and I can recall Jake was playing then. And let me name the team that I think anyway, my team back then in that time, Jake would be one of the front runners up in the front row, and Bugsy, Mati Marimuru, and of course in the second row, you know, the Mari Tupaya, you know, and I remember even when Doc was playing, and Picky at the back, so very formidable side. All the Tukiris, John and JT and George. So they're always and Fati, a team to encounter.
Well, the most I feared from TURANGAWAEWAE was the main was their big forward pack, yeah, and then Mitch Wharakura, and then Barn Turner, and Bāterangi.
But the memories that I had, anyway, you know, with playing up against TURANGAWAEWAE wasn't an easy task. I remember, you know, you had the line of Sonny, Wita, Barn was in the mix too. Yeah, so, you know, those games were, you know, games that you will never forget. You know, they always, you know, the end result, you know, was, you know, probably a couple of points either way. Yeah, so, you know, with Barm and Fati, Bugsy, and so there was a time where football one day, the next day we were on stage together. So, you know, those were the social times and the good times. You know, and as a result of that, we were able to travel together with Te Ata and Whatumona, Hikairo, and Lovey over to Europe. So when you look back and say, well, we did this together, we went here, there, it wasn't for the bond of Tani Whara TURANGAWAEWAE, probably that may not have happened. Yeah. So I think we had the privilege of being able to compete on stage as well as on the paddock.
Yeah.
Yep, my first encounter with TURANGAWAEWAE was back in 1978. And then and those games were battle scar games to me. You know, when you were sort of there was head eyes, and if you had no ball, well, you still get hit with no ball and everything like that. Yeah, but those were the days.
Well, yeah, what about the after functions?
After functions, wow, they were the best. They were the best. Football was a football game, but the after function was the best of the games.
Yeah, you bash each other on the field, and next thing you're drinking with all the mates.
Yes. That was the camaraderie of all about it. Was playing the football, was going back to the club after.
But yeah, 1966 I started my senior journey with Tani Whanau. Pop Raihe was coaching. He was player coach at the time. People like Don Parkinson, Clyde Tupaia, Butler Berriman, Willie Turner, and yeah, I started. That was when I first sort of can remember playing against TURANGAWAEWAE, and the sort of names. It was a bit of a mixture between Ngāruahi and TURANGAWAEWAE back in those days. Like I'm talking about the early '60s. The late '60s when I think Sonny was around, Balm, George, Tukere, those sort of guys. But I can't clearly remember. But sort of recollection of TURANGAWAEWAE was always a tough game. Every time we played, there was always because Tani Whanau and TURANGAWAEWAE were also very prominent during the Koroneihana when they were combined in the kitchens and that. There was always that friendly rivalry that sort of went on, and there was a lot of ribbing and a lot of having each other on and pulling someone's leg or joking about something. But on the field, she was a tough episode. She was a tough place to be in those days, and it was the old saying when the stiff arms were quite prominent in those days. It was an art too. It was an art how to do it, and I won't go mentioning any names because they were on both sides. Eddie's telling me to mention some. No. I mean, it was one of those things where it was the way we played back in those days. You know, it was hard football, and you got stuck in, and you got if you got the dominant side of things, and of course everybody. Because we played so regular, there was only really about 5 clubs playing. I'm talking about back in the 60s and the 70s now, and you sort of got to know who to watch out for, and if somebody was on that side of the ruck, you just made sure that you were on the other side of the ruck, and you kept well clear.
What about after functions and back in the clubs, whether it be Tani Whanau or TURANGAWAEWAE? Rex, what was the camaraderie like that back then?
Oh, I mean, it was, back in those days, mate, it was awesome because there were guitars, singing. Everybody knew the words to 10 guitars and Please Release Me. They knew the whole song, you know, and whether somebody could play the guitar or not, usually somebody jumped on it and started banging away. But yeah, there was... It was not uncommon to see a table lined with jugs, and in the middle would be an empty jug with everyone's koha put in there. Their put into the jug. You put $20 in or $10 in. I think if I can go back further, you only had to put in $5, and you still had plenty to drink. So, but the camaraderie, the kai after, the woman in the kitchen, all those sort of things were part and parcel of what actually happened back then. Yeah. Happy birthday, TURANGAWAEWAE. I know there was a little bit of a recess where the club's there, but I mean, in this day and age, for a club to survive, I take my hat off to the people that work behind the scenes, because grassroots sports, and especially rugby league, it's tough to survive, and TURANGAWAEWAE's done well over the years, and I hope you all enjoy your evening.
I would like to wish myself, Turangawaewae, a happy 70th anniversary birthday, and hope for the future of Turangawaewae. And look after your schoolboys and all the up and coming.
I hope everybody has an awesome weekend, and I hope to catch up with you throughout that weekend. So, tēnei a tani wharau, tēnei mātou te whānau o tani wharau, e mihi atu nei ki a koutou te whānau o Turangawaewae. Ngā mihi whānau.
Congratulations, Turangawaewae, and hope to catch up with you sometime during your celebrations. Ngā mihi kia koutou katoa.
Yeah, Turangawaewae. Been some many good years, and happy birthday anyway, Turangawaewae Rugby League Club. Cheers.
Te mihi atu kia koutou e tō rā e hara mai nei I tēnei wiki. Te aroha kia koutou, a memo o te karampumata o Turangawaewae, a komiti, ko koutou katoa. E mihi atu kia koutou, he mihi, kia ora tātou.
I'm not telling you anything new, but I just wish the brothers, have a, Balm and Whatiwa and all those ones that George and John, JT, we're all around about that same age, and it gives you an appreciation of the things that we stood for and how we can give a little bit back. Hey? And I just wish the brothers for the 70th reunion that all will be well. And I remember Rodi, and I wasn't supposed to be there, but we went up there and we forgot to come home. And who was the sober driver back then, I can't recall. But, that's how it was. And that was the night when we lost in the final against Turangawaewae, but however, that stays on the paddock. The after matches, the after matches about rekindling, renewing those off the field. Kia ora, Eru.